Hey, all you ghouls and goblins out there. Welcome to Empowered Human with Nina Garcia. I am your host, and today's episode is going to actually be a throwback. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I know we're about growth here. I know we're about recognizing humanity and humanizing ourselves again in this world that we live in that dehumanizes us from time to time. And today's episode is a throwback. I have not had time to record new episodes, but I'm willing to bet that unless you were listening a year or two ago, you haven't heard this one. It was a Halloween special that we did on a Halloween bygone. And it is going to deal with a ghost story, right? It's going to tell you a scary story at the beginning. I actually re-listened to it before we aired it, and I was like, ooh, that is kind of creepy. But, it's short, a short little scary story. And then it's going to lean into why people do what they do when it comes to ghosting. If you are dating, if you are having relationships out there in which you are avoiding confrontation, then this episode might be for you. Now, because it is from a bygone Halloween, it is not going to have the usual empowered human, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the way that we typically run it. You are still going to get your breath, and it is going to tell you a story. It's going to explore a little bit psychoeducationally and give you some things to work with. But the adventure challenge, I think, is the biggest thing that is missing. When we do an adventure challenge, typically in episodes, I tell you, hey, here's your adventure challenge for the upcoming week. Now that you've learned something new, here are 3 different offerings for how you can put it into practice this upcoming week, right? Level 1 is always self-awareness. Level 2 is self-knowledge. Level 3 is self-realization. And this is all towards getting you to identify as a self-actualized individual, right? For you to show up as you intend to show up in the world around you. And so you're going to hear the episode. This is a goodie. I really hope you enjoy this episode, but I am going to add in a mini adventure challenge at the end to see if we can make it a little bit more like our usual episode. Otherwise, enough talking from me. Grab a journal or a really good friend. Honestly, just enjoy this episode. It is a lot of fun. And I hope that you take something from it. It obviously won't be everything, right? But it will be at least one facet. So hang on to your witches' hats and grab your brooms, folks, because of course, I am so curious. Are you ready to play? Hey you, Nina here. If you are listening to this episode, it is our final episode of season 2, because we have season 3 coming at you January 2022. So for now, welcome to the end of October and our 4-part series on the dating Scaries. This was, of course, by audience request and popular demand, based on the moments that you all have brought to our attention. I have divided them into 4 episodes for you to deal with the pre-date Scaries, the mid-date Scaries, the end-of-date Scaries, and this episode which focuses on the post-date ghosting. So if you listen to this episode, you and I are both consenting to have a very playful experience that will help us diversify our ability to play with post-date ghosting. Not everything, but at least one facet to help us potentially transform a hard conversation into a teachable moment. And that's regardless of whether you have been ghosted or whether you have been the ghost. This is a non-judgmental welcome space for everyone. So have a journal on hand or a good friend to dialogue with what comes up for you in this episode. For now, I'm curious. Are you ready to play?
Welcome to Triggered. Can we play with that? You know that moment when your emotions ramp up in an instant, leaving you feeling helpless, frozen, or out of control? In that moment, you've been emotionally hijacked, the very definition of triggered. And I want to ask you, can we play with that? I'm Nina L. Garcia, drama therapist and empowerment coach of Houston Creative Arts Therapy. Join me as we discover ways to empower you and the people who mean the most to you to transform hard conversations into teachable moments. Triggered. Real playful. Real respectful. Real empowered.
Let's take a breath. This story is a scary story you're about to hear, so if you are not into scary stories, you may want to skip past this part. It's going to be pretty short, maybe 2-3 minutes. So otherwise, this story is called They Call Me Ghost. Carla matched with Ghost on a popular dating app and was excited to meet up for a night. He seemed like a nice guy with a touch of bad boy and, offered one of the most popular dating things. He said, let's go out for tacos. It turned into tacos and tequila. And not only tacos and tequila, but they were laughing, which of course checked the boxes. They were touching, which of course checked the boxes. And the conversation was so good, said Carla. He was talking about a tattoo he wanted. And Carla said, if we don't get it done tonight, you're not going to do it. So let's go do it right now. They go to a local tattoo parlor that Ghost mentions offhand, and while they're there, before he gets anything done, he asks Carla, does she want anything done? And she says no, and he says, I'll pay for it if you do. And she says, you know what? Yeah, I do. She shows the tattoo artist an image of an alien face. The tattoo artist is a little skeptical, looks at Ghost and says, you sure, dude, that she should get this? And Ghost just nods and says whatever she wants. So the tattoo artist does just that. Puts an alien on her arm. And while Carla is getting that tattoo, she slowly but surely blacks out. Looking down at her arm, as the outline of the face is coming to, was the last thing she remembered. The next day, at an impossible to determine time, Carla wakes up in a tub with an icy cold pain around her midsection in a room that must have cost all of nothing to rent for the night. She looks around slowly, hazily, and then peers down at the tattoo on her arm and the new scar on her abdomen where a piece of her body was surely removed. Ghost is nowhere to be heard or seen. But then again, how would you feel if he was? The moral of the story? Choose your drinks and your company wisely. Right. So, shake it off. Thank goodness your date is not going to be like this, right? Because of course you're going to choose your drinks and your company wisely. But here's the reality. I know a lot of you were probably expecting in our post-date ghosting episode that it would be a ghost story. But this is horror of a different type, yeah? And here's the reality. There are lots of reasons why people may actually ghost you. So barring a physical inability to get back to you, right? Like something physically happened to them, or, they had to go handle family something, or fill in the blank. And barring like a narcissistic desire to manipulate or control you, right? We can most likely chalk up someone ghosting you to a discomfort with confrontation. I know, you're like, but no, it's so simple. They just have to message you back. I know, it seems so simple, but if you've ever been ghosted, or if you are the ghost, for this is a safe space for either side of the coin, so to speak, it is most likely due to a discomfort with confrontation. They, the ghost, does not want to confront you or even themselves with the reality of the emotions. And in the digital world we live in, folks, it is so much easier to just practice ignoring, forgetting, or even actively blocking someone instead of dealing with direct confrontation. This is, of course, a huge problem because the reality is neither of you get closure. It's sort of like throwing a ginormous blanket over an elephant and saying, "What? If I can't see it, it'll go away." No, won't you, Barbaroni? But if I got a solution for your confrontation problem. Here's the part of the episode where I invite both you and I to disrupt unhelpful narratives and flip the script, because newsflash, this isn't just for people on dates. This is for every human being. Anytime they need to say something directly to someone, but they find themselves getting caught up in the thoughts or the feelings and not wanting to confront them, end up deciding to ghost instead. So instead of passively or actively ghosting, I want to offer you a fantastic tool. It is 4 lines for empowered confrontation. Just 4 lines. That's it. They're very simple sentences. Again, simple sentences. The first 3 lines end in a period, and the last line ends in a question mark. Here's what empowered confrontation looks like. First line, validate their truth. Second line, validate your truth. Third line, state your ask. Fourth line, the only question is a question for clarification. E.g., does it make sense why I've said this? Does it make sense how I've said this? Does this make sense to you? All we're asking in that last line is clarification that the first 3 lines made sense. Not, do you need more info, or does it make sense why I'm asking this of you and you can tell me everything, blah, 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 blah. No. If we're trying to empower confrontation something, we want to keep it so super simple. Very, very clear. So, based on the story I just told you, I am going to give you 4 example lines, because the story that I actually just told you is partially based on a true story in which homegirl actually did this. She did not wake up the next day. She actually got the tattoo, but she was fine. She went home, woke up the next day and was like, "Hey, I had a wild night." And then he ghosted. He didn't message back. And she was like, "Why didn't he message me back? He paid for my tattoo. He got me a tattoo. We checked all these boxes. Bippity boppity boo, right? Why did he ghost?" So let's imagine that you're in the actual shoes of the guy who ghosted, paid for the tattoo, did everything, thank goodness, did not actually take any organs or anything. But your first line, because you're going to validate their truth, sounds like something like this. You might message, "I'm glad you had a wild night," right? Because homegirl was like, "Hey, a wild night last night," right? So you're going to validate her truth with 100% something she would agree to, because she probably said it herself. First line, "I'm glad you had a wild night." Second line, validate your truth. "For me, I woke up this morning feeling like it was a little too wild and I'm not on the same page long term." Third line, state your ask. It is not a question, you are stating it. In this case, "I actually need it to be a one-time thing so I can go in a different direction." Your fourth line for clarification might be something like, "Does that make sense to you?" Let me go ahead and say all 4 of these again, which you do not have to say in person. You can email, text, DM. I don't care how you do it. I just want to invite you to take the opportunity to utilize empowered confrontation, which supports both of you in getting the closure that's necessary and maybe super beneficial. So here are those 4 lines just as they are. "Hey, I'm glad you had a wild night. For me, I woke up this morning feeling like it was too wild and I'm not on the same page long term with you. I actually need it to be a one-time thing so I can go in a different direction. Does that make sense to you?" Arguably, one of the scariest things we can do to ourselves is potentially become the ghost, right? And the reason why that's scary is because it means that part of us is actively impacting someone else as if they don't deserve our time, as if they don't deserve the time of day, because we don't want to deal with our own discomfort. So, hey there, you. Welcome to Ghosts Anonymous, friend. Now let's flip the script. Empower yourself to confront your own feelings and then masterfully craft your own personal 4 lines and put it in a text. You can immediately give yourself and that person the closure you both deserve when you are direct, keep it simple, and stick to this formula for empowered confrontation. We're nearing the end of the episode, and I'm wondering, what's your takeaway? You can hit me up on Instagram at HCatWellness, and this tool, the Empowered Confrontation tool, is going to be coming soon in more depth on the website. It's going to be called Confrontation Champion. So you can head to HoustonCreativeArtsTherapy.com for more info on that. But for those of you who enjoy a bit of self-exploration, you know I'm going to leave you with a question for this upcoming week. Of course, I am inviting you to play with hard, scary things, so ask yourself, am I the person who ghosts, or am I the person who is ghosted? In either case, how can I use these 4 lines from the Empowered Confrontation tool to confront my own feelings and the feelings of those around me? Get curious. And I will see you in the next season, January 2022, friends. Stay safe through Halloween and all of the remaining holidays that we have from now until I see you/hear you again. Otherwise, that's what we planned for today, folks. So thank you for taking a minute to explore your triggers as a human. And if this has been helpful and you'd like to support Triggered, Can We Play With That? Please feel free to leave a rating and a review on iTunes, as that's what actually helps other people find us when you do. All right, so this is Nina back, present day. I hope you enjoyed that fun episode. And like I mentioned at the beginning, we didn't have adventure challenges back then the way we do now. So I wanted to offer you something that you could play with a little bit. The adventure challenge being, how do we play and redefine our relationship to ghosting? In a nutshell, what I would want you to take away is ghosting is a coping mechanism. It is a way of addressing a situation in which you avoid addressing the situation, right? You are avoiding the confrontation of this. You're avoiding the discomfort. And so for us living an empowered human life over here, I say there's no judgment in this. Is it uncomfortable when it happens to you? Sure. Is it life-threatening? Probably not, right? So when you think about your adventure challenge, level 1 self-awareness, just get to know, are you the ghost or are you the person ghosting? And just own it. Own that this is something that's happened or is happening and that it is present. Don't hide it under the carpet. It's like, no, I got busy and that's, it's not really, I didn't really ghost him. I just got busy. No, you ghosted. If you did not communicate an ending to this relationship, you ghosted. And hey, no judgment, friend, but is it your intention to behave that way? And that's what I really I can't give you that answer. Only you can, right? And so that's your level 1, just to know where you are in the story. A level 2, if you're like, okay, well, give me some knowledge on this, right? Let me level up, Nina. I get it. I know where I am in the story. What's the level up? Self-knowledge is, how do you feel now that you know this thing? You've noticed it, you're aware of it. How do you feel about that? Do you want to feel more comfortable with confrontation? Do you want to keep on ghosting? Do you want to keep on being ghosted? Are you okay with not being ghosted? Or excuse me, with being ghosted, right? There's so many different ways that it could go. I don't want us to shame ourselves or other people for doing this. I want us to understand why it happens in the first place. It's not because people are evil or they're out to get us. Definitely not like this story, right? I'm going to say 9 times out of 10, although that is a totally made up statistic, just so we're clear. It is 9 times out of 10 because someone just doesn't feel comfortable with the confrontation. They would rather just avoid it, rather just move on. So again, self-knowledge level 2, if you're okay with that, then by all means, keep doing you. But if you're not okay with that, what can you do to shift the narrative, right? This is sort of the knowledge piece. Now, actually shifting the narrative, that is your self-realization level 3 adventure challenge. If you've made it through 1, you have awareness. You made it through 2, you know how it is that you actually intend to show up or not show up. Level 3 is actually committing to making it happen. Self-realization is an action-based space, okay? So when you say, I'm going to behave in a particular way now, you are now either going to intentionally, I can't believe I'm going to say this right, but intentionally ghost because you know that's just where you're at and you have not yet developed the skills, but you want to change that, or you are going to not intentionally ghost because you know that's not where you want to be at and you're going to try to figure out how to do that. Now, for those of you who are actually exploring this, take a listen into our last episode. We did a deeper dive, I think, maybe than this episode, maybe not, on ghosting, why it happens, what the different levels are of what you can do. We did that in last week's episode. So you can still play with this topic. This topic is huge every year. It comes up around Valentine's Day. It comes up when the holiday season gets bigger. I have a lot of clients who are asking, what is the deal? Why can't people get it together? People need skills. You, my friend, are a human being that needs skills in order to know how to engage differently in the world in front of you, ahead of you, around you in this very moment. And until you gain those skills, most of us will habitually engage in the world. We'll do what we've been taught to do or what we've been used to doing. So again, and I say this with a smile and so much love in my heart this creepy Halloween season, be intentional as you move forward. That is my invitation to you. Show up how you intend to show up and gain the skills to actually show up that way. That is what I've got for you, folks. Stay safe out there this Halloween and all the holidays moving forward.